life has like an oscillating pattern, and it's really important to double down on the investment in yourself when you're in an upcycle, because you want to sustain that momentum. You want to build on that momentum. And what tends to happen for leaders and for organizations and for athletes and high performers is when they're winning is when they let off the gas. When they're winning is when they take it easy. When they're winning is when they're coasting. And that makes you incredibly vulnerable to the competition, to market change, to bad habits that then decrease your performance. And then you get scared, and then you re-engage. And this kind of this roller coaster ride that people go on. And coaching is a fantastic way of managing the roller coaster to keep you going beyond what you thought you were capable of.
Welcome to the Beyond High Performance podcast, featuring content and conversations from me, Jason Jaggard, along with our elite coaches at Novus Global, their high-performing clients, and the faculty of the METAPERFORMANCE Institute for Coaching. On this podcast, you'll hear some of the world's best executive coaches and high-performing leaders, artists, and athletes discuss how they continue to go beyond high performance in their lives and businesses.
All right, welcome to the show. My name is David Gerber, and I'm here with Jason Jaggard, who's the founder and CEO of Novus Global. He's also a best-selling author and one of the top coaches in the world. And so we're going to be talking about all things Novus Global, all things METAPERFORMANCE Institute, and really just asking Jason a lot of questions about how things started around here and how do things operate. So Jason, just to dive right in, tell us about the mission and vision of Novus Global.
Before I get into the vision, I want to talk a little bit about the sense that every human being has, that they have more capacity, more potential to offer the world than maybe they even have the courage to believe, or certainly oftentimes than other people believe about them. And that's actually a tragedy in a lot of ways, because there's so much good that people can create if only they were able to excavate that potential and to, what we call in the firm, go beyond high performance. Like that, there's a suggestion that there's more for people, that it's a travesty that there was only like one Dr. King or one Gandhi, or you pick a person that you really admire from history, and to say, why couldn't there have been several of people who really go beyond what other people think is possible or capable? We especially in America, like, we tend to look up to them, we tend to admire them, we tend to wish that there were more of them. Why aren't there more of them? Mm-hmm. And so what I and the firm believe is that people get in their own way. Like there are blocks that keep people internally, that keep people from truly accessing the greatness that is buried inside of them, that they have to offer the world, and to go beyond high performance for them. And so the vision of the firm is to lead humanity into going beyond high performance. That we think we're not the only ones who care about this, but we want to be one of the groups in the world that fiercely believe that people are capable of more in a really beautiful and enjoyable and meaningful way. And we want to do everything we can to help unleash that for the benefit of everyone.
In a world of a lot of solopreneur coaches or coaches that are just working on their own, why Novus Global, and how did this thing start? How did you pull this thing together?
Yeah, well, to your point, I mean, the coaching industry right now is exploding. And, we joke sometimes that every person who gives you a ride in an Uber is also an executive coach, and which is fun. I
might have driven an Uber when I was an executive coach.
you wouldn't have?
Early on. No, I might have.
You might have. Well, you were working at Trader Joe's.
Yeah. We all got to start somewhere.
This is a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, it's fun. It's a fun origin story.
That's right. And that's exactly my point is, as people get into this industry, it can be really lonely. And most executive coaches who get into this don't last very long. They do it for a while, and it ends up being a lot harder than they think that it is. And then they either plateau or their careers die out, and they go try something else. And, when I started executive coaching, over 10 years ago, there was this one that was very lonely, and I had been on teams my whole career. And so I knew what was missing, and I knew that in order for me to, one, have fulfillment, the kind of fulfillment that I was longing for, but also to have the kind of success in terms of really being faithful to stewarding my own talent as a coach, I needed to find some kind of community. Now, the interesting thing about when executive coaches hang out with each other is they're competitors, right?
So, yeah, and I've been in a lot of those circles where you're at different seminars or whatever it is, and it's 50 coaches that are all trying to pretend they don't compete, but they do compete. And you're trying to be nice to each other and all these things, and really it's a bit of a challenge.
It is, and not that you can't get value from that. There's some value. People are kind of being generous, kind of helping each other, kind of, but there also is a ton of protection and a lot of defensiveness. And so we were like, well, what if we could create a community of coaches who were just unabashedly on the same team? And how much faster would we grow, and how much faster would we improve, and how much faster could we diagnose when things with a client are not going in an optimal way, and how can we help serve our clients more powerfully. So there's all these developmental advantages to being in community if it's well designed.
Yes.
That's key, because you can really build communities that are not well designed and actually make things worse. And so you were part of the early days, and there was me, you, and a few other people who we really wanted to see if it was possible to create a group of people who were passionate about serving other people and do it alongside each other in a way that was mutually beneficial. And that was how the firm was born.
Yeah. And I remember early days when we'd talk about it, and I'm sure I told you a few times, this won't work.
Yeah. and frankly, because you came in, so there was Dan, there was Janet, there was Amanda. I think those were John.
John, yeah.
Yeah. Some of the early guys, and we knew you.
Yeah.
We knew you had been around, and I've known you now for 20 years.
Yeah.
And you were up in the Bay Area, and you were doing great. Like you were, and I remember us having conversations and being like, hey, you want to, the thing is no one wants to be a joiner.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like even when we say, it kind of sounds culty.
Yeah.
Like, hey, come and join the firm. Like I feel like people feel like, in order to join something, it's like you're losing your identity, you're losing your brand, you're losing your logo, you're losing your, all this kind of stuff. And so there's all this resistance, and it kind of feels like it's not my thing anymore. And I even remember Chris North was another one of the coaches in our firm. He remember saying, it's amazing that you get so many people to work for you.
Yeah.
And I remember really being put off by that.
Yes, yeah. And you never wanted to set up that way.
No, and it wasn't like they don't work for me.
Yep.
We work together.
Yeah.
And it's not like the coaches in the firm are minions.
Yeah.
Everyone's allowed to have their unique flavor and their unique contribution to the community. Everyone brings their personalities. In fact, I'm going to jump ahead real quick because I don't know if we're going to get to this in the conversation. But like Gerber, where have you been for the last 30 days?
Well, I was lion tracking in South Africa.
He was lion tracking in South Africa, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
And we want our coaches to have their lives, and we want our coaches to find the things that they're passionate about and then bring that to the team. And so now I'm kind of pestering you about what would it look like to have like Novus Global Adventures, and for you and maybe some others to partner together and really explore what does coaching look like in the wild? What does coaching look like in nature? What does coaching look like in these spaces? And I would have never, ever thought about that had you not been in our community. It's you are going to make us better. You do make us better. And I think that's the power of what we're doing here.
And I remember a lot of hesitations as well, and even conversations you mentioned about Chris, about losing your identity and what was that going to feel like and what were the inhibitors to wanting to join and things like that. So I resonate with that, and it's been fun the last number of years where we've built this together.
Yeah,
right?
that's
with
right.
Everybody that's on the team now is all a part of building that. And you're so great at highlighting that of this isn't me running the show. This is us. This is a collaborative effort that we're going after.
And any leader who's watching this is going to appreciate this challenge. The bigger the organization gets, the larger a stewardship you have as a leader to nurture and unleash the talent of people.
Yeah.
Now, the bigger an organization gets, the harder that is to do, partly because people's talents are so disparate. And so how do we pick, like for every Gerber who's passionate about nature and the wild and really pushing your limits physically, there are other people who are interested in the opposite of that. And how do you develop those talents simultaneously in a way that still maintains alignment for us to work together? So it'd be easy for things to like get blown apart. But another example is Amanda Jaggard. And she, if it wasn't for her, there'd be no institute.
Yep.
There's another company called the Institute for METAPERFORMANCE, and she came to me one time and she was like, I think we can teach people how to do this really well. And I was like, great. I'll pay for it if you run it. And she's like, deal.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and years later, we just had our largest cohort ever.
Yeah.
The president now is Joseph King Barkley. He's crushing it. And we're just having so much fun. And it brings so much life to our community as these new coaches are constantly coming in with new talents and new passions. But that would not have happened had it not been for Amanda. And so then it's like, how do you see and hear and listen to all the talents that are in a space, and then do what you can to unleash that in a way that's mutually beneficial for everyone? And it's hard.
Yeah.
And we're figuring it out.
Yeah, we're very much figuring it out. Well, let's go back to this idea of, so when you started the firm, you spoke a little bit about this, but I want you to go deeper on it in terms of, why should someone consider hiring a coach?
Well, I mean, usually if you're arguing with someone about hiring a coach, you're not going to win. So usually I try never to argue with someone or try to convince someone that they need a coach. So if someone doesn't think that they need a coach, they win.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. No problem. And what I would suggest is there are 2 times when it's really valuable for someone to walk alongside and help you in your life. And this, by the way, this could be in coaching, this could be in therapy, this could be in 12-step programs.
Yeah.
Like there are. I'm really passionate about relationally developmental environments. So like we in the firm, we don't really have like courses. We don't really. Everything we do is high touch, white glove. Everything we do is relationship to relationship. Like we use technology to augment. Of course, we're playing with AI in terms of supporting coaches in their role and how they work with our clients. But like everything we do is very, very human. And so, and I really love the way I think the irreplaceable way that human beings help other human beings grow. And there's a million different ways to do that. And the reason why that's important is because like I love coaching. I think it's powerful. I don't think it's the only thing, and I certainly don't think it's the always thing. I think and a lot of our clients will come to us. We will work with them for a while, and then they'll discover that there are other things, other tools, other resources they may need in their life. There's a client of mine. We just we ended our contract. We worked together for years. Ended our contract, and then I actually introduced him to other resources that he could use to get where he wants to go in life because we had come to the end of the road for us. So all that being said, with coaching, there are 2 really important seasons of life where it could be helpful. One, and if you're listening to this, you can do like a little bit of an assessment. One is if you feel like stuck somewhere, anywhere, right? Like if you feel like your relationship's stuck, or maybe it just doesn't have the same life to it as it used to, or you feel like your career is stuck, you feel like you're in a rut, even if you're doing something you really love. I like to say even one of the worst moments in a leader's life or a high performer's life is when they win, because now it's like, now what do I do? I put my whole life, like in Gerber's a part of Novus Global Sport, and so we work with a lot of professional athletes, and it's like the worst moment in an athlete's life isn't after they lose.
Yeah.
It's after they win and they've oriented their whole lives around this one thing for years. And finally they've gotten it. Now they don't, like kind of like a dog catching a car. They don't know what to do with it yet, with the success. And so that's a fantastic time to bring somebody in who's not you, who's not stuck between your ears, who's not a co-conspirator in all the stories that you tell yourself that keep your life exactly where it is. And they can come in and sometimes gently, sometimes disruptively, invite you into new narratives and help you even see the narratives you're telling yourself and asking profound questions like, does this narrative you're telling yourself get you where you want to go? Like, it's a really meaningful thing. Yeah. The other time when coaching is really valuable is when you are just crushing, when you're winning, when the wind is in your hair and the relationship's great and the career is great and you're succeeding and you're thriving and and then oftentimes you're asking like, now what? And you want to bring somebody in that season because life has like an oscillating pattern. Like life has ups and downs, and it's really important to double down on the investment in yourself when you're in an upcycle because you want to sustain that momentum. You want to build on that momentum. And what tends to happen for leaders and for organizations and for athletes and high performers is when they're winning is when they let off the gas. When they're winning is when they take it easy. When they're winning is when they're coasting. And that makes you incredibly vulnerable to the competition, to market change, to bad habits that then to decrease your performance. And then you get scared and then you re-engage. And it's kind of this roller coaster ride that people go on. And coaching is a fantastic way of managing the roller coaster to keep you going beyond what you thought you were capable of.
So you mentioned 2 things there in terms of why people should consider or look at coaching or see it as an option. So if you could share some bit about your personal journey with it. So a lot of times coaches get into coaching because it was so impactful for their life. And so for you, if you wind back the clock a little bit, is there a bit of your personal journey? Like was it one of those 2 reasons that you received coaching or?
Yeah, for sure.
What was your story like?
It definitely wasn't the second one.
Okay.
Yeah. And Gerbs, you know my story really well.
Yeah.
I appreciate you giving me some softball pitches here. I hit a huge wall, right? Like I had a relational failure, a massive relational failure. I had, in many ways, like a career failure. I had transition. I had an amazing job working for an amazing organization, and like the leaders of that organization believed in me, invested in me, were giving me all sorts of opportunities, and then I hit like a ceiling there, and it wasn't like anything. They didn't do anything wrong necessarily, but there was a sense that in order for me to tap into the next level of my leadership gear, I needed to be someplace else. And so I had great conversations with them. I said, hey, I want to start a consultancy company. And they said, great, how much time do you need to do that? And it's like, okay, I need like 6 months to kind of set it up and get it. I wish I would have asked for longer.
Yeah.
But everything takes longer than you think it does.
Yeah.
And they're like, great, no problem. Like, and everything ended really amicably there. And I moved off of staff, and then suddenly, I don't think most people, when you're part of an organization, most people do not appreciate how much wake the organization, not the leaders of the organization, sometimes though, but how much wake the organization creates for your success.
Yeah.
And there's a nonprofit in Louisville, Kentucky that did a leadership conference when I was like 19 years old. And I went to this thing, and I remember the lead guy saying, this place, he reminds his staff, this place makes you look better than you are.
Okay.
And which is true.
Yeah.
And that's, in some ways, that's the gift of community. It's like, it's almost like, and that's the point. That's not a bug. That's a feature of community.
Yeah.
It makes you better. And so I was having some degree of success when I was working in this organization, and I thought that by leaving the organization, it was going to be easy.
Yeah.
and it is like there's these walls protecting you against the winds of a hurricane.
Yeah.
And then you step outside the walls, and the hurricane comes. And that hit me. It hit me hard, and it hit me vocationally, and it hit me relationally. And I was desperate for tools. This is my late 20s. I was desperate for tools to navigate the wind. And so I found a buddy of mine told me about this 4-day like coaching thing, and I didn't want to go. Yeah. Because I didn't think that here's the thing. I was desperate for help, and I also didn't want to admit that I needed help.
Yeah, which is I think the origin for a lot of us. I've been in the same place. I still remember getting invited to something like that, and I was like, I'm good. I'm too busy.
Yes.
I wasn't busy at all. It was like hilarious to think about.
Yeah, I was
15 years ago.
I was busy failing.
Yes. Yeah.
I was working really hard at not winning.
Yeah, but I don't need any help.
No
I'm
help.
good.
No help. And I even think someone helped pay for my deal. Yeah. And so I went to this 4-day thing, and it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And the tools were evocative, novel.
Yeah.
Like it was a paradigm that I'd never heard before. And it was resources I'd never seen before. And it was facilitated in a way that I'd never seen before.
Yep.
Like I saw, and it was a coaching experience. So in the coaching, I saw somebody be aggressive in a way that was also loving. And I'd never seen that before. I'd seen aggression that was not loving, and I saw like kindness that was not aggressive, and which is fine.
Yeah, but it wasn't disruptive.
It was the first time I'd ever seen what we call in the firm like fierce advocacy. And I'd seen like glimpses of it in other places, but this was like fierce advocacy concentrate. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And it helped me navigate those tools in my late 20s that I got exposed to, helped me navigate my career and my relationships in a totally new way. And those tools helped me reinvent my relationship with my parents. It helped me reinvent my relationship to myself. And then I fell so in love with it. Then I was like, I want to do this for a living. Like I want this to be at the center of my life rather than just a little thing. And that's how I got into coaching.
Yeah. So you get into coaching, and how long has the firm been around now?
It's coming up on 10 years.
Come up in 10 years.
Yeah.
As the natural course of things in terms of businesses go, there's ways you want to differentiate yourself, or what is it you bring to the market? And so for you, how does Novus Global, what's their approach that's unique to you and unique to us as a firm?
Yeah, thanks for asking. This is something that I'm excited for us to talk more about. So most coaching, what I like to say is a good coach helps you get what you want. A great coach helps you expand what you want. And to me, this is so important, not only in the coaching space, but again, in developmental spaces of any kind. And just like, what does it mean to be human? So oftentimes we think that what a person desires is who they are. So you never want to invite anyone into something bigger than what they desire. And so then what happens is a person's experienced or known desires becomes a lid on their capacity. So everyone walks around thinking that what they desire is all there is. What I like about meta-performance coaching is we treat what you desire as a starting point, not as an end point. And so what I want to know is what do you want? And we'll get clear on what you want. But then we're going to start playing with that. Then we're going to start saying, well, what if it was twice as much? What if it was 100 times as much? What if it was as 1,000,000 times as much? And at any time, it's okay for a person to say, yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, when you invite someone beyond what they desire, what they discover is there are actually desires that they had that they were not connected to or conscious of. And that the human capacity for desire is actually bigger than people think that it is. And so what part of a distinctive in the market for us is we don't take what you want at face value. Yeah. We actually think that there are deeper wants, deeper desires, bigger desires that are buried inside every human person. And what we want to do is we want to create a space where you can safely, ethically, responsibly begin excavating that for the benefit not only of yourself, but for other people.
And what do you think prevents people from tapping into that otherwise?
Well, first of all, I think people think that their desires are the end of the road.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's like, what do you want? This is what I want, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think most people are not curious about what else they may want, or what are deeper wants, more significant wants, more meaningful wants. And so I think society doesn't lend itself towards asking those deeper questions and really slowing down for people to plumb the wells of who they are as human beings. So I think that's probably one of the biggest obstacles.
Yeah, it's almost, and I've experienced it myself too, where we're culturally conditioned to only have desires that go a certain degree.
That's right.
And I even think about with the lion tracking trip I went on.
Yeah.
When I was first thinking about it, it was like, I want to take some time off, have a bit of a sabbatical, vision quest time, and kind of reinvigorate myself. And I thought, maybe 7 days, 10 days was pushing it. Yeah. And then finally somebody, a coach actually said, what is it? Just stop for a second and really, what do you really want? And I remember saying 30 days for this first time out loud. And I was like, I can't, that's not allowed. Yeah. Societally, it's not okay. What are my clients going to think? What are you going to think as a CEO of the firm? Are people going to think I'm foolish? All these things come up, but it was like so core to me of like, this is what I really want. Is there any other client stories that you think of either in the firm or with yourself where you help somebody go from like an initial thing that then expanded?
Well, I'm a horrible interviewer because I'm not going to answer your question yet because we're going to stick on you just for a second.
Okay.
So like there are all these fears, and if you're listening to this or watching this, I want you to think about what are the things that you might want, but you're afraid to want them because of certain implications.
Yeah.
Right. So for you, there was, we'll do it like maybe one or two of the implications here. Like I want to honor your concern for how that was going to impact the firm, me, other people in your life. Right. That is a good impulse.
Yes.
It's a good impulse to think, I want this, but how is this going to affect other people? And a phrase that I really love is you want to care about what other people think without being controlled by what other people think. Yeah. Right. And so you do want to consider that and weight that. Now, what's fun about that is then you reached out to me and you talked to some other people in the firm. Yeah. And here's what I want to suggest. So Gerber is a textbook example of how this could work. Is he talked to me and we had a conversation and I was like, I would love for you to do this. And I'll tell you why in a second. And then you're because Gerber's a busy coach. So he's embedded in all these enterprise services and all these different contracts and relationships. And then he had conversations with all the requisite people that it would impact and worked it out to where everyone was fine with it. And not only fine with it, but this is what I want to suggest, because we could have made our mission to coach people into, coach humanity into going beyond high performance. Like that's what we could have made it. But we didn't make it coaching humanity into going beyond high performance, because coaches sometimes, one of the downsides of coaching is you're helping everyone else live your dreams, but you don't get to live yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the reason why the vision of the firm is leading humanity into going beyond high performance is because we don't want to be left out and we don't want to be left behind. The coaches in our firm, and I think this is another distinctive, the coaches in our firm aren't just doling out coaching modalities. The coaches in our firm aren't just like, hey, we got ontological, we've got cognitive behavioral, we've got effective, we've got, whatever, we got Myers-Briggs, StrengthsFinder, DISC, Berkman, we've got like whatever new toys coming down the pipe. Yeah. And we love the toys, right? We love those things. But it's not just about using the tools. It's about the tools using us. And it's about the tools enlarging our lives and expanding our lives. And when I work with my clients, I don't want to be just like a schlub on a Zoom call coaching someone into a great marriage. I want to have a great marriage. And I want to have a marriage, I want to aspire with my wife to create a marriage that's so great that it inspires other people. Not that we're going to get there. We're new. But the vision for us is to have a marriage that's so compelling that it inspires other people to want a better marriage. I don't want to just be a leader of a firm. I want to lead in a way. I want to be an executive in a way that other executives are like, I want to lead like him. And in the same way, Gerb, sorry, I call you Gerb.
That's fine. Yeah,
David Gerber, interviewer David Gerber. Gerb's like, you inspire me.
Yeah.
Like you inspire me to want to go beyond high performance. You inspire me physically, the way you take care of your body, with your habits, with your fitness, with the way that you, with your way you eat, and you inspire me in the risks that you take to follow your heart, and to really be connected somatically to your whole body, and to follow your dreams, and to go and do things that other people don't do, like take a month off to be face to face to some of those dangerous creatures in the history of the world, right? Like that is awesome.
Yeah.
And when you went on safari, that wasn't a sacrifice that the firm endured. It is a benefit that you brought to the firm and to your clients, because when you get on, and you know this is true, now when you get on with your clients, they're like, hey, how was your week?
Yeah.
Like you've got all these stories and all these insights, and Gerber's about finished with his first book, and we're already talking about his second book, and it's like Gerber is leading people into going beyond high performance. How many people are going to be inspired? Maybe lion tracking is not going to be their thing, but like if you're listening to this, what's your thing? Like what's your thing? Gerber's got a day job, and he's very good at it, but he also has this passion for the world and for nature and for wildness. And for lack of a better phrase, beasts. Like Gerber and I were in Southeast Asia, and watching you see elephants in the wild, not a park, not a reserve, like in the wild for the first time, it was like a sacred thing. And sacredness is contagious. And we want to embody as much sacredness as we can as coaches so that we can get that on our clients and draw that out of our clients, even co-create that with our clients. And I don't know of any other community in the world other than maybe churches. Churches. So really what I'm trying to do is, that's right. Churches do, when churches are working well, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I want to take that in the coaching space and really, and like a, the movie Ford versus Ferrari?
Yes.
Yeah. So in Ford versus Ferrari, Matt Damon is charged by Ford to create a race car that can beat Ferrari. And so he hires Christian Bale, and the whole movie, they're talking about the perfect lap.
Yeah.
And they're talking about let's build this car and let's see what it can do. Yeah. Right. And for me with the firm, coaching is like, here's this car, here's this thing called coaching. Let's see what we can do. Let's see how far we can push this thing. Let's see how fast we can make this thing go. And, in the movie, it's like the perfect lap. And so for coaches, it's like the perfect session.
Yeah.
And all the coaches in our firm are obsessed with like, what's the perfect session? What's the perfect coaching relationship? And not perfect like flawless, not perfect as like pristine, not perfect as in like, don't touch it, don't mess with it, don't, anything, but like perfect as in like speed, power, movement. How do we do that? And all that I find to be, I know I'm rambling, but I find it all to be very intoxicating. Yeah. And that's what makes doing this so fun.
Well, and I think about it, and I've been a benefactor essentially, because the original question was, tell us a client success story. And one of the benefits of being part of the firm is that you actually we're all sort of clients of the firm in terms of the ecosystem that we're designing. Like you said, we're figuring out as we go. And even this trip that I went on was an experiment. And I still remember asking you, and I was crying because I was like so nervous to ask you. And then when you said yes, I was afraid you were going to say no, not that long. And I was like, no, I felt supposed to really be 30 days. And it was like amazing to me of how supportive you and the firm were, the ops team, everybody was super helpful. And it's something that would have been much harder to do on my own as a solopreneur coach. Because I just don't have all the systems baked into that.
Well, too, as a solopreneur, and we'll get to ideal clients here in a second, or client stories, but it's hard when you're by yourself too, because there's no one pass blocking for you.
Yeah.
So when you are gone for 30 days, it's not like you were gone, you didn't take a break. Yeah. In my mind, you went for 30 days, you were investing in your soul, right? And so you came back a better coach, a better person, a better, more exciting, more alive person. And that's valuable to us. So when a solopreneur does that, all their biz dev dries up, their world stops. They got to put their world on pause. And you did put your practice on pause. Yeah. But then around you are dozens and dozens of other coaches across the country who can't wait for you to come back to bring you into things, and you pick up where you left off and all sorts of stuff. So it's super fun. Yeah. Now, in terms of client stories, I got two client stories that I really love telling. One is there's an executive at Rockefeller Group. So Dan Moore is the CEO of Rockefeller Group, and he wrote the foreword to our book. He's awesome, and worked with him for several years. He's super great. And this is in the middle of us working with them, and it was going very well, like a lot of success, like up and to the right, everything's great, and super fun. And so Dan invited me and a few other coaches to come and speak at their annual deal at Christmas time. So I fly to New York City, which I loved. I lived in LA for 20 years. It was so great. In New York City, like Rockefeller Center, there's a band, and I got to speak, and our coaches did our thing, and we're hanging out afterwards. And this leader at Rockefeller walks up, and I talk about this story in the book, but I just love this story. And he says, "Hey, can you send Amanda a message?" One of our coaches, the woman who started the firm, or the co-founded the institute. And I said, "What's the message?" And he said, "Her coaching changed my," and I thought he was going to say career. Yeah. And it did, because I knew all the metrics and everything. Yeah. He said, but he didn't say career. He said, change my family.
Yeah.
And I said, tell me more. And he said, well, I've got a daughter, and for the first, 13, 14 years of her life, my wife was in charge. The daughter and the wife really got along, connected, clicked, everything. Now daughter's going through adolescence, and the wife was like, all my tricks are not working anymore. She's all yours.
Good luck.
Kind of a thing. And the husband was like, I don't know what to do, but I love my daughter. And he said, all the skills and tools that I learned in coaching with Amanda, of course, helped with my career. And of course, I got the bonus and all the things, and that's great. He said, and he teared up, and he goes, he said, Jason, like, if it wasn't for the coaching with Amanda, my relationship with my daughter wouldn't be what it was. And he said, it's amazing. It's an amazing family, an amazing relationship, and it's all because of our work together. And we gave each other a big hug. And so, like, what's fun about our work is when we come in and work with companies, we're not just, helping cogs in a machine be better cogs in a machine. Everything that we're teaching is universal. It has integrity. It works in work. It works outside of work. It works in civic engagement and government politics. It works everywhere. It works with people who are affluent. It works with people who are struggling financially. It works with everybody. And that's what we really love about it. The second story is we're working with a great company called Denso. Denso is like a, $40 billion global company.
Like a few auto parts.
That's right. Every car has Denso parts in it.
Yeah.
And we were working with Bill Foy, who's now he's at AW. He works with Amazon now, but at the time he was an executive at Denso, and just crushing it. And he's working with his engineers. And through our work, this isn't my story. I don't get to take the credit on this one. I guess I didn't get to take the credit on the last one either. But our coaches worked with his team. And they had so in business, if you're a leader, you know how this works. In business, the longer a timeline, the more expensive it is. So if you're working on a project, like if Denso's working on a new auto part or engineering something, and it's going to take a year, well, you got to pay all those engineers and mechanics and everybody,
their benefits and all that
everything,
stuff.
for 12 months, and which is great. And then you budget things, and so when you're working on projects, you think about how long things are going to take, and that's how expensive the project's going to be. Yeah. And so I'm going to get some of the details wrong, but through our work with their team, we coached them into shortening the time length of a project from like 12 months to 6 months, which saved them like $30 million.
Yeah.
And so Bill Foy with a straight face could look in your eyes and say, working with Novus Global saved us $30 million. And not only did it save overhead, $30 million, but just like in Rockefeller, the stories that came out of, so it's not like they just worked, burnt harder, the candle up. That's right. Yep. Gritted, worked harder and burnt out and spun out and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't like that. Like they had one of the greatest and most productive seasons of their life. They were communicating better. They were having more fun. There was more energy in the workplace. And of course the timeline shortened. And I just love those things. So whether it's an executive building a better relationship with their daughter, or whether it's an engineering team cutting 6 months off of a budget and saving a company $30 million to be reinvested into sometimes better salaries and things like that, that's just very fulfilling to help people go beyond high performance. So if you're listening to this and you are thinking, you don't even have to be confident or certain that you want to work with somebody, but you just want to stick your toe in the water. You just want to have a conversation, a free conversation with someone to see if coaching would be right for you. We have a link in the show notes. I don't know if people ever go to the links in the show notes. So I dare you, if you're the kind of person who hears this every time in a podcast, check out the link in the show notes. You're like, I'm going to do that. And you never do that. I dare you to check out the link in the show notes. There's a link in the show notes and it will take you, and it'll help facilitate you connecting with one of our coaches who will just do a free introductory call to figure out what you need. And sometimes that ends with us pointing you in some other direction, right? It's not about us selling you on us. It's about selling you on your best possible future. And so if you click the link in the show notes.
There's a link in the show notes.
That's correct. Then you can have a conversation with one of our coaches today.
So who are some of Novus Global clients now?
Our clients are amazing. Like in real estate, we work with the Rockefeller Group, one of the best real estate companies in the world. In the nonprofit world, we work with World Vision, which is like literally one of the biggest nonprofits doing global development in the world. When it comes to entertainment, you may have heard of one of our clients, Netflix or iHeartMedia, right? Some of the best in the world when it comes to sports, whether it's LAFC and Los Angeles, which by the way has the best sport culture of any sport team I've ever seen in America. Globally, we've got a way to go. But to be at an LAFC game is a spiritual experience.
Okay.
And then, whether it's LAFC or whether it's with the NBA, we work with the Atlanta Hawks, like our clients are just like blow your mind clients. And we love coming alongside of them and loving them without being impressed by them. Yeah. Right. So our job is to cheer for them, to celebrate them, to admire even what they've done, and then to not be impressed with them so that we can disrupt whatever stories they're telling that are keeping them back and helping them go even further.
To a person who considers themselves a high performer, a person that is a high performer or a leader of teams that feels like they have more inside of them, they just have that sense, that hunger, but they are struggling to unlock it. What would you say to somebody in that place?
Man, the biggest thing is no one unlocks their potential alone. Right, what we like to say at the firm is everyone has a next level and no one gets there by themselves. And so again, we can kind of wrap up where we started. There are a million ways to invest in yourself. The only wrong way is to not invest in yourself, right? And success costs more than you think it does. All success is always more expensive than you think, and then you have to decide whether or not it's worth it.
Yeah.
And so
and you're talking about like investing financially, but also time and energy.
Time, energy, creativity. A great relationship costs more than you think that it does.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's worth it.
Yes.
Right. A great career is more expensive than you think. It's funny, even anytime a company is plateaued, anytime a company's plateaued, a relationship's plateaued, a life is plateaued, it's almost always because there's some cost that is necessary to invest in order to break through that they're unwilling to pay. And so if you're feeling stuck, a question might be, what is a cost that you know is required for you to get unstuck that you are unwilling or you're scared to pay? And then what coaches do is they help you get really clear on a vision that's on the other side of that expense that's worth paying the price. And so if you are, and you cannot do that on your own. You can't do that by yourself. Just so you know, if you're listening to this, watching this, you're not going to listen to this and then like radically change your life. Probably not. Some people do sometimes.
Yep.
But the overwhelming majority of you are going to need to make a phone call, talk to someone, hire a therapist, go to a 12-step program. Or, what we would love for you to do is to hire a coach. And it doesn't even look like, I love coaching so much. It doesn't even have to be our coaches. I don't care. Like, there are so many great organizations out there. Google it, hire somebody, find somebody. I've worked with lots of coaches from lots of organizations that are not ours. We love what we do, but I would much rather you find coaching than find us.
Yeah.
And if you're wondering where to start, we are a fantastic place to start.
Oftentimes you think it's going to be so much harder than it is. It is like hard work. It does cost you something, but oftentimes, my experience, as you grow, it's like this weird transformation that happens where it was actually easier than you thought.
Yes. That's so good, Gerber. And this is what another time we can do another podcast where you and I can you don't have to be focused on me and we can just talk.
Yeah.
Because that's such a great insight. And so leadership is the art of mastering paradox. And so what you just said is the other side of the paradox. So in some ways, success is going to be more expensive than you think.
Yep.
And in other ways, it's going to be a lot easier than you think. Right. And so because deciding to pay the cost is hard, but once you've decided to pay the cost, it gets easy. Right. And that we could unpack that for a whole episode.
Yeah.
And maybe we should sometime. I really enjoyed talking with you.
I love that. Yeah, it's great.
All right, we have a few more things to let you know about before we go. First, podcast reviews really help us serve more people. So if this podcast is helpful for you, we'd love your help to get it into as many leaders' hands as possible. Please leave us a review, even if it's not 5 stars. And if you really want to go the extra mile, let us know what you'd like to hear more of, or what you think we could do better to serve you and the people you care about. Okay, second, we have more resources for you online, and they're all free. We have free assessments, educational videos, articles from sources like Fast Company, written by our coaches and clients, all designed to help you use our tools in your everyday life and leadership. To dive into the free treasure trove of goodies we have for you, go to novus.global and then click on resources. Some of you have been listening for a while, and you haven't yet taken that next step to hire a coach. This is your time. I can't tell you how often I've heard from clients around the world that they wish they would have talked to us sooner. If you have a sense that you're capable of more, we would be thrilled to explore what coaching could do for you and those you influence. Simply email us at begin@novus.global or click the link in the show notes. You also might be listening to this thinking, maybe you want to be a coach, or maybe you already are and you have a vision to build a 6 or 7 figure practice coaching people you love in a way that brings life to you and your clients. Well, that's why we created the METAPERFORMANCE Institute for Coaching. It is an in-depth coaching apprenticeship designed to help you create the coaching practice of your dreams. The first step in exploring that is simple. Just go to www.mp, as in metaperformance.institute. There we have free assessments to help you see what kind of training you need to create the coaching practice the way our coaches do at Novus Global. Finally, this show is produced by Rainbow Creative with Matthew Jones as executive producer, Steven Selnick as producer, and Rob Johnson as audio editor and engineer. We love working with this team. Find out more about how to create a podcast for you and your business at rainbowcreative.co. Thank you so much for listening. We love making these for you. And remember, dare to go beyond high performance.